Okay, the most important thing for Smokey Eye is definitely going to be primer. So we're going to get some eyeshadow primer on Sam so that the shadows stick and stay in place all day. Next, we are going to put her skin tone shade of eyeshadow down on the crease. This is the color Chantilly from the LORAC Pro 4 palette, but any eyeshadow that's similar to your skin tone will work. This just helps all of those colors blend into the crease nicely as we start to build our Smokey Eye. I am going to do a really light layer on her eyelids as well. So next, to start building into the crease, we are going to use taupe from the LORAC Pro 1, and we're just going to very, very gently put this in the crease. This is going to be our lightest transition shade, so we want it to be closer to the skin tone than the other shades so that it blends seamlessly. And this is just going to help build color. With the Smokey Eye, you never want to go in immediately into black and just rub that on your eye. You want to build the crease and then put your darkest shade down and then blend that into everything else. So that is what we're going to show. So next up, we are going to start working a cool tone eyeshadow into the crease. I am taking Cool Gray from the LORAC Pro 2, and we're just going to kind of go over that a little bit. Not quite going to the edge where that brown is, but mainly concentrating it right at the crease. If it goes onto the eyelid, that is totally fine. We're going to be covering that anyway. But this is just going to start to build that cool color. So now we're going to go into the shade Dark Brown from the LORAC Pro 3. Take that on a natural brush, natural haired blending brush, and we're just going to work that into the crease as well. Again, not going too high. We don't want to turn her into a raccoon. Okay, so the next step for the Smokey Eye is going to be putting down the dark shadow. So what I'm going to do is take it on a flat brush like this, and I'm going to take the shade Espresso from the LORAC Pro 1. It's like a dark, cool tone brown. And we're just going to start working that onto the lid. Alright, now we're going to go back into the LORAC Pro 3 with that shade Dark Brown. And we're going to place the brush flat and just start to blend right where the dark shadow hits the crease colors. And as you'll notice, I have not gone in with a black. I know that that is everyone's first instinct, however, this looks very dark and you don't necessarily need black to make it look that way. So I'm gonna have her close her eyes and look at the camera, and as you can see, this is the blended out side versus this side that is not blended out yet. And there you go. There's the two sides blended out. If you want to, you can then start building up color more so in the crease. But this is pretty smoky, I would say. So I'm just going to use whatever's left on that brush. We're just going to go a little bit higher. And this just really diffuses those dark colors and kind of helps give more of a smoky effect. So now we are going to go in with a black shade, and we are just going to focus this mainly just around the eyes. So we're just going to lift her eye and starting at the base, pull it upwards. And as there's less product, you can kind of tap it all over. And I'm gonna have her face the camera. It just deepens and darkens that just a little bit towards the lash line. It hardly picks up on camera, but in person it makes a huge difference. And then I'm just gonna take some of that black and just darken it up, but I kind of want it to ombre into the rest of the dark shadows. So you can go back with that dark brown and just pat, pat, pat all over to make sure that it all blended. Another reason for doing the eyes first is because any of that dark shadow, if it catches under here, we can easily wipe it away before moving on to the face. Alright, so next up we're going to start on her brows. And I am just using a blonde shade on them, as we will be working with a blonde wig. So I'm going to start right underneath the brows, and we're just going to kind of create the outline of our shape. And now we're just going to try to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so the trick with brows is to make them sisters, not twins. So what I did here is I just tried to recreate the same shape. So then I'm just going to take a spoolie and just lightly brush that through. I don't want to take away too much color, but anywhere that there might be a little bit of buildup around the bottom, just brush through it a little bit. And this just gives more of a natural vibe. And now I'm just going to use some clear brow gel to just lock that into place. So I'm just priming the face now. We're using a little bit of a moisturizing primer. So for foundation, like I do on every other vampire, we're going to use C1 from Loreal. It is the True Match foundations. And because Sam has usually a little bit of redness on her skin, I'm gonna mix in just a little bit of green to counteract that. Like I went over in color correcting, green is opposite of red in the color wheel, so they cancel each other out. Any color correcting you need to do, always look at the color wheel, see what's opposite, and use something similar to that color. So we're just gonna take a tiny dab of green and mix it into the foundation. Okay, so now we are just going to paint her face with that foundation. So I'm gonna just apply it all over. And we're using the Real Techniques Beauty Sponge to help pounce that into the skin. It's already damp, so it's soaked up all of the water, so that way it won't soak up the foundation.
I've made that mistake many a time.
And we're just gonna take that down the neck as well, just to blend everything into each other, especially if you're not super pale. As it is, this will help. Turn this way. There you go.
Because your face should always match your neck.
That's right. And I just use the beauty sponge and drag it down the neck. That doesn't have to be perfectly blended. You can barely see it, it just gives it a tint of color. And then for any spots you may need to cover up more, go ahead and do that. You just put a little bit of foundation and very, very gently tap over it. And since I already had the green in the foundation, I didn't need to add it to any concealer. Next, I'm going to mix a little bit of peach in with that foundation to create our under eye concealer. And the peach is going to help color correct the blue under her eyes. So first I'm going to take that on a brush and place the color where I want it. Now I'm going to take that same beauty sponge and tap it in. So now we're just going to make sure that there is no creasing, and then we're going to take some loose setting powder, a very light layer, and press that into her skin to make sure that that concealer does not move throughout the day. However, if you are crinkling your eyes a lot throughout the day, it will probably start to crease because makeup is not magic, but it does its best. And we are also going to take some of that on the sponge and I'm going to have her tighten her lip, and then we're going to press that into the acne spots. So for those of you watching at home, we are all human, we all get them. So that's a good way to lock it into place and leave it alone. So next we're going to take this lightest contour shade. You can see I've used and abused it, and we are going to start contouring. You can look. Okay, so I'm going to have Sam turn to the side so we can show you. I'm going to start contouring her cheekbones. So where your cheekbones are the highest, you want to find that divot, and that's where you want to contour. And we are using a cream contour first. And I'm using it very, very lightly up into the hairline, just to create that effect. So when she looks forward, you can tell that this side is just a little bit more defined. And some people have more defined cheekbones to start out with. I, for one, actually look like I have contour on most of the time, but it's just because mine goes in really far here, and that makes it easier to find. But some people don't have much of a divot, so just look for that ear right here. And for the jawline, which I always like to accentuate on them, we just follow the natural jaw and then blend down. And then I always take a little bit on the temples, and then just a little bit along forehead. We're gonna cover the entire face with setting powder, and this is gonna help lock the makeup. So we are just gonna take a big fluffy brush and pat it all over the face. You never wanna take it and drag it. You just used a lot of creams, and if you drag your brush, it will move the creams around. So you just want to pat, pat, pat. Down the neck is fine. Like I said, that one's a little bit easier to work with. But everywhere else, pat, pat, pat. And this keeps your makeup in place all day. We are going to take this Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye Palette because it has the perfect gray tone for vampires. This is a gray eyeshadow, but it's got a really big pan size, and as you can see, it's well loved. So we're going to use that to beef up the contour. And we're just going to take that very lightly and just kind of flick it upwards. And this is just going to help that contour really look like it's there. Because using a cream contour is a little bit more subtle. And I'm just going to place this anywhere we use the cream contour. Now over the whole face, I'm going to be taking this Hourglass Ambient Lighting in, I believe this is Diffuse Light, yes. It's got diamond powder in it, and that's going to help them shimmer just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to work under the eyes, and we're going to take that shade Taupe, the one that we used above, and I'm going to have her look up and tilt towards me just a little bit. And we're going to take this on a bigger fluffy brush because again, this is the transition shade. And we're just going to buff that under the eye. We're basically doing the same steps that we did on her lid, and we're just going to apply that down below to give her that complete smoky eye. So you also want to make sure that you connect the two. So now we're going to take that shade Cool Gray on a little bit smaller of a brush, and we're just going to go over top, similar to what we did on the lid. And again, like we did above, we're going to take Espresso on an even smaller brush. I'm going to have her look up, and we're just going to rub that right along the lash line. There you go. That's got that nice smoky effect, top and bottom. So next I'm gonna take a black gel waterproof eyeliner, and I'm gonna have her look up and tilt towards me, and I'm gonna add this to the waterline. Shoot. And then I'm gonna have her blink, 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 and hold her eyes together. Close them tightly. Blink, blink, blink. There we go. That kind of blends it in.
Didn't know that.
You can use a pencil liner, but on clients I only use a gel liner. Another little thing that you can do before, like after you're done with contour, when there's just a little bit on your brush, is you can just take that down the nose to keep the dimension on your face. It's not necessarily trying to thin out your nose, but just to keep...
Give it a shape.
Give it a shape, yep. Okay, so next up we are going to use this nude shade. This is called Naked by Anastasia Beverly Hills. It is a liquid lipstick, so it's gonna dry down matte and stay all day. Or most of the day. You might have to touch up, like open right here. That is usually where things start to come undone because of drinking and eating.
What are you talking about? We don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You sure as heck talk a lot though.
That's true. And the other nice part about nude shades is when they start to fade away, it's not quite as noticeable. Also make sure to exfoliate and moisturize your lips. When you use liquid lipsticks, they get a little drying. And poor Sam, this is not her first liquid lipstick of the weekend.
Is this my third now?
Yep. Whenever you do something really heavy on the eyes, it's nice to go with a little bit more of a nude on the bottom. And then the final step of the makeup portion is using a setting spray. So that is what we are going to do. And then she's going to get into character. Close. I use the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray to keep things locked into place. And here we have the completed Jane look. There she is in all of her fierce glory. So a nice dark smoky eye, a nude lip, some fierce brows, and a blonde wig, and you can be Jane for Halloween. And it's fun, huh?
Pain. Pain.
Oh shit. Go.
Pain.
Go.
Pain. How's it doing? Hold on. Okay.
Go.
Pain. Oh. Hello.
Just keeping our backgrounds warm.
What? Oh. I want to hold her.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna bring my eyeshadow palettes back.